The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive structure of metal and light that had stood for 2,000 years. Inside, High Chancellor Kyung-soo sat on his elevated throne, his scaled hands resting on the armrests. His reptilian eyes scanned the room where representatives from across the galaxy gathered. They were discussing trade routes and mining rights, the usual boring matters that kept the Triaxian Concordat running smoothly. Then the alarm sounded. A young officer rushed into the chamber, his blue skin pale with fear. "High Chancellor, we have detected something near the dead zone." Every voice in the room fell silent. The dead zone was a forbidden sector of space that no ship had entered in living memory. Old laws passed down from the ancient times declared it off limits. No one remembered why anymore. "What kind of something?" Kyung-soo asked, his voice deep and threatening. "A ship, sir. A large one. It just appeared from faster-than-light travel." Kyung-soo leaned forward. "Send a patrol. Find out who is stupid enough to violate the old laws." Far away, at the edge of the restricted zone, Captain Dae-hyun stood on the bridge of the UNS Indomitable. He was a tall man with sharp eyes and short black hair going gray at the temples. He wore a simple blue uniform with no decorations. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations, monitoring systems that hummed with power. "Status report," Dae-hyun said calmly. Lieutenant Jae-min, a younger man with quick hands and quicker mind, looked up from his console. "All systems normal, Captain. We are holding position at the designated coordinates. No ships in sensor range yet. They will come," Dr. Harin said from her station near the back of the bridge. She was a woman in her 40s, wearing civilian clothes and carrying a datapad filled with ancient texts. "The moment we crossed into their space, they knew. They always watch the borders." Dae-hyun nodded. "How long has it been, Doctor? Since humans last spoke to other species?" Harin checked her pad. 2,143 years. "Give or take a few months. Long time to be alone," Jaemin muttered. "We were not alone by choice," Harin reminded him. "The plague almost destroyed us. We had to isolate Earth, had to close ourselves off to survive. But we survived. We rebuilt. And now we are ready to return." "The question is," Dae-hyun said quietly, "will they remember us? Or have we become nothing more than old stories?" His answer came 30 minutes later, when 3 Concordat warships dropped out of faster-than-light speed in front of the Indomitable. They were sleek vessels painted in the purple and gold of the Triaxian military. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. "Incoming transmission," Jae-min announced. "Put it on screen," Dae-hyun ordered. The view screen flickered to life, showing a Vorn commander. His scales were deep red and his eyes were cold. "Unknown vessel, you have violated restricted space. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. You will be taken into custody and your ship impounded." Dae-hyun stepped forward, his hands clasped behind his back. "I am Captain Dae-hyun of the United Nations ship Indomitable, representing the people of Earth. We come in peace, seeking to re-establish contact with the galactic community." The Vorn commander's eyes narrowed. "Earth, that is impossible. Earth is a myth, a legend from the old times. You are criminals using stolen data to create a false identity. I assure you we are quite real," Dae-hyun said calmly. "We have been isolated for over 2,000 years, recovering from a devastating plague. But we have healed. We have returned. We request permission to send an ambassador to the Galactic Council." The Vorn commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "You speak of fairy tales. The humans were war gods who vanished into legend. They were not real. They were stories to frighten children." Dr. Harin stepped forward, her face tight with frustration. "We have historical records. We have artifacts. We can prove our identity." "Silence," the commander barked. "You will surrender immediately or we will open fire. This is your final warning." Dae-hyun turned to Jae-min. "Lieutenant, what is your assessment?" Jae-min studied his tactical display. "They have targeting locks on us. Their weapons are charged. But Captain, their technology is at least 50 years behind ours. Maybe more." "I see." Dae-hyun turned back to the screen. "Commander, I ask you one more time. Stand down." "We do not wish to fight. You dare threaten us?" The Vorn's scales flushed darker with anger. "Fire!" Energy beams lanced out from the 3 warships, bright against the darkness of space. They struck the Indomitable's shields and scattered like rain on stone. The human ship did not even shake. On the bridge, Dae-hyun closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, there was sadness there, but also steel. Jamin, disable their weapons. Do not destroy them. I want no deaths today. Yes, sir. What happened next took exactly 97 seconds. The Indomitable did not fire energy beams or missiles. Instead, it released a swarm of small drones, each one no bigger than a human fist. They moved faster than the alien sensors could track, flowing like water around the 3 warships. Precision lasers, too weak to harm living beings but perfectly calibrated to cut through metal, sliced into weapon systems, engine housings, and shield generators. The 3 concordant warships went dark, floating powerless in space. On the lead ship, the Vorn commander stared at his dead console in shock. What are they? Daehyun's voice came over the communication system, calm and clear. We are human. We are real. And we are here. Your crews are safe. Your ships are disabled but repairable. We will wait here while you contact your superiors. Tell them that Earth has returned. Tell them we remember the old agreements. Tell them we want peace, but we will not be treated as criminals or prisoners. The transmission ended, leaving the Vorn commander in darkness. Within an hour, every major news network in the galaxy had the footage. 3 military warships, disabled in less than 2 minutes without a single shot fired in return. The unknown vessel hovering there waiting patiently, making no aggressive moves. In the council chamber, Kyung-soo watched the footage for the 10th time. Around him, representatives shouted and argued. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for investigation. A few, the oldest ones, looked frightened. It cannot be, one of them whispered. The humans were myths. They were not real. But Kyung-soo, staring at the image of the Indomitable on the screen, felt something cold settle in his stomach. He had read the old texts when he was young. Stories of a species that could wage war like no other. Stories of beings who had built empires and then voluntarily walked away from them. Stories that ended with a warning. Never wake the sleeping gods. On the Indomitable, Daehyun stood at the observation window looking out at the stars. Ambassador Taewon, a dignified older man who had been resting in his quarters, came to stand beside him. They do not believe we are human, Taewon said softly. They will, Daehyun replied. Eventually, and when they do, then we will see if they learned anything in the 2,000 years we were gone. Daehyun's reflection in the glass showed a man who had hoped for a better welcome. We will see if they can accept that the legends were always real, that we did not vanish. We simply stepped away. And if they cannot accept it, Daehyun was quiet for a long moment. Then we will remind them why the old laws forbade anyone from entering the dead zone, why our ancestors agreed to isolate ourselves. He turned to face the ambassador. We will remind them what humans are capable of when we have no other choice. Behind them, the bridge crew worked in silence, and the Indomitable waited in the darkness, patient as stone, while the galaxy began to wake up to an impossible truth. The myths were real. The legends had returned, and nothing would ever be the same again. Ambassador Taewon walked through the halls of New Crucible Station with measured steps. The station was enormous, home to millions of beings from across the galaxy. Markets filled with strange goods lined the lower levels. Government offices occupied the middle sections. And at the very top, the Grand Council chamber waited like a crown. Behind Taewon walked 6 human soldiers in dress uniforms. They carried no visible weapons, but their eyes never stopped moving, always watching. Commander Hyojin led them, a compact woman with scars on her hands and a calm expression that never quite reached her eyes. They are staring, Hyojin said quietly. Let them stare, Taewon replied. They have never seen a human before. We are walking myths to them. A small insectoid creature approached, moving on 4 legs with 2 arms holding a translation device. Its compound eyes reflected rainbow colors. Excuse me, it said in a clicking voice that the device translated. Are you really humans? From Earth? Taewon stopped and smiled gently. Yes, I am Ambassador Taewon. And you are? Mei Lin. I am a merchant. I sell fabrics from the Rim worlds. The creature seemed excited, antennae waving. My grandmother told me stories about humans. She said you could speak without words, using only your faces. It is true, Taewon said. He demonstrated, showing sadness, then joy, then concern, all without speaking. Mei Lin's antennae trembled. Amazing. Will you trade with us? Will humans come to our markets? I hope so, Taewon said. That is why we are here, to build bridges. Inside the council chamber, Kyung-soo sat on his throne, surrounded by advisors. High General Thex Ural stood to his right, a massive Vorn with black scales and cold eyes. The general had been arguing for an hour. "We cannot allow this," Thex Ural insisted. "If humans are real, they are a threat. The old text described them as the most dangerous species ever to walk the stars. We should act now while we still can." "The old texts also say they left peacefully," another council member pointed out. "They agreed to isolate themselves. They kept that agreement for over 2,000 years. And now they have broken it," Thex Ural said. "They return with advanced ships and unknown technology. We must show strength." Kyung-soo raised a hand for silence. "The ambassador arrives today. We will hear what he has to say, then we decide." The doors opened and Taewon entered. He walked alone down the long aisle, leaving his guards at the door. His simple gray suit contrasted sharply with the elaborate robes and armor worn by the council members. "Ambassador Taewon of Earth," Kyung-soo announced formally. "You stand before the Triaxian Concordat, rulers of the civilized galaxy. State your purpose." Taewon bowed respectfully. "High Chancellor, honored council, humanity returns after a long absence. We seek to rejoin the galactic community as equals. We wish to trade, to share knowledge, to build friendships." "Equals?" Kyung-soo's scaled brow rose. "You are one species returning from isolation. The Concordat represents thousands of species and millions of worlds. How can you claim equality?" "Because we earned it once before," Taewon said calmly. "Dr. Harin has compiled evidence. Ruins on 73 worlds bear human markings. These ruins predate your oldest civilizations. We walked among the stars when your ancestors were still learning to make fire." Angry murmurs filled the chamber. Thex Ural stepped forward, his voice booming. "You speak of ancient history. The past does not matter. Today you are weak. One ship, one station, one small planet. The Concordat offers you protection. We will accept Earth as a protectorate. You will be safe under our guidance." Taewon's expression hardened. "We do not need protection, and we will not accept being treated as children. We offer partnership or nothing." "Then you will have nothing," Kyung-soo said coldly. "This council is dismissed." That night on a secure channel, Kyung-soo met with Thex Ural in private. The general's eyes gleamed with anticipation. "They refused our generous offer," Kyung-soo said. "They insulted us before the entire council." "They must be taught a lesson," Thex Ural agreed. "But we cannot attack them directly. Not without proof they are hostile." "Then create proof." Kyung-soo's words hung in the air like poison. "A small incident. Nothing major. Just enough to justify bringing them under control." Thex Ural smiled, showing many teeth. "It will be done." 3 days later, the colony ship New Dawn traveled through space at slower than light speed. It was not a warship, but a transport, carrying 50,000 humans in cryogenic sleep. They were families, volunteers, pioneers hoping to establish humanity's first new colony in over 2,000 years. The ship had minimal defenses and no offensive weapons. On the bridge, the small crew of 20 monitored systems. Commander Hyojin was there, having volunteered to protect the colonists. She stood at the tactical station, her instincts making her uneasy. "Something is wrong," she said to the captain, a nervous young man named Dongwoo. "What do you mean?" Dongwoo asked. "This sector is too quiet. No merchant ships. No patrols. Nothing." Her instincts were proven right when 6 Concordat warships dropped out of faster-than-light speed, surrounding the New Dawn. Their weapons were already charged. Thex Ural's face appeared on the view screen. "Human vessel, you have entered restricted space without authorization. This is an act of war. Surrender immediately. We filed proper navigation plans," Dongwoo protested. "We had permission to pass through this sector." "I have no record of such permission." "Power down your engines," Hyojin stepped forward. "This is a colony ship. We have civilians aboard. Families. Children. If there was a bureaucratic error, we can resolve it peacefully." "There is no error," Thex Ural said. "There is only your violation. We will board your ship and take custody of all passengers. They will be interrogated to ensure they are not military spies." Hyojin's blood ran cold. She knew what was happening. This was a setup. She triggered a silent alarm that would alert Earth, but help was days away. "We have women and children in cryosleep," she said desperately. "Please, we will cooperate. Just do not harm them." Thex Ural cut the communication. Boarding pods launched from his ships, magnetic clamps ready to latch onto the New Dawn's hull. Hyojin turned to her small team of soldiers. There were only 15 of them. Against 6 warships and hundreds of enemy soldiers, they had no chance. But they had no choice either. "Wake up anyone who has combat training," she ordered. "Even basic. We need every person we can get, Commander," one of her soldiers said quietly. "What are our orders?" Hyojin looked at the sleeping colonists visible through the window of the cryogenic bay. Families, dreamers, people who had left Earth seeking hope. She would not let them be taken without a fight. "We protect them," she said simply, "no matter the cost." The battle that followed was brutal and desperate. Concordat soldiers breached the hull in 12 locations. Hyojin and her people fought with everything they had. Human reflexes faster than the aliens expected. Human determination fiercer than they could imagine. Human desperation more terrible than they had prepared for. But they were outnumbered 20-1. Hyojin fought hand to hand in a corridor slick with blood. She took down 4 soldiers before one of them shot her in the leg. She fell, her vision blurring, and saw enemy soldiers advancing toward the cryogenic bay. Then the ship shook. A massive explosion rocked the enemy flagship. Hyojin looked at her tactical display through pain-filled eyes and saw something impossible. The flagship was disabled. Its engines were dead, but how? Later she would learn the truth. A single human soldier, young Ji-hoon, only 19 years old, had set the ship's reactor to overload in a specific way. He had created an electromagnetic pulse that fried the flagship systems. He had stayed behind to ensure it worked, knowing he would die. The explosion gave them a chance. Hyojin and her remaining soldiers pushed back, fighting with renewed fury. They managed to repel the boarders from the cryogenic bay, sealing the doors just in time. But by the time reinforcements arrived from Earth 3 days later, 3,000 colonists had died. The boarding teams had killed them in the initial assault. 3,000 lives lost because one species wanted to prove they were still in charge. The footage was broadcast across human space. Every network, every screen. People saw the bodies. They saw the children who would never wake from their cryo-sleep. On Earth, Minister Bora stood before the United Assembly. She was an old woman who had lived through the plague years, who remembered when humanity almost ended. Her voice was quiet, but every word carried weight. "For 2,000 years we have been peaceful," she said. "We isolated ourselves, we healed. We promised we would never again wage war unless we had no choice." She paused, her eyes hard. "They have given us no choice." They wanted to see if the old legends were true. They wanted to test whether humans were really as dangerous as the stories claimed. The assembly was silent. "Let us show them," Bora said. "Let us remind the galaxy why our ancestors agreed to leave. Why the old laws said to never disturb Earth. Not because we were weak, but because we were too strong. Too terrible, too good at war." The vote was unanimous. Humanity mobilized for war. Dr. Wan-shik walked through the ancient facility buried deep beneath Europa's ice. The corridor had not seen light in 2,000 years. Frost-covered walls of metal and stone. His breath made clouds in the cold air, even through his environmental suit. "Are you sure about this?" his assistant asked nervously. She was young, had never seen war, did not understand what they were about to unleash. "No," Wan-shik admitted. "But Minister Bora ordered us to open the vaults, to remember what we were." He stopped at a massive door marked with warnings in 12 dead languages. "The question is not whether we should. The question is whether we can stop ourselves once we start." He pressed his hand to the scanner. The door recognized his DNA and opened with a groan of protesting metal. Inside, lights flickered on automatically, revealing a chamber filled with weapons. Not simple guns or missiles. These were tools of extinction. Wan-shik picked up a datapad, reading specifications that made his blood run cold. Kinetic weapons that could strike from orbit with the force of nuclear bombs. Biological agents designed to target specific genetic markers. Self-replicating nanomachines that could disassemble enemy ships molecule by molecule. "We built these during the War of Terra," Wan-shik said quietly. "When we fought among ourselves, before we realized what we were becoming." He set the pad down. "We swore we would never use them again, but we never destroyed them. We just locked them away." "Why keep them?" his assistant asked. "Because forgetting how to kill does not mean you have evolved. It just means you have forgotten." Wan-shik looked at the weapons with sad eyes. "We kept them as a reminder. and as insurance, in case the galaxy ever gave us no choice. Far above, in Earth's orbital shipyards, another kind of awakening was happening. Admiral Subin stood on the observation deck, watching ships take shape in the construction bays. She was a tall woman with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. Behind her, holographic displays showed production numbers that increased every hour. "How many ships can we build per week?" she asked her chief engineer. "At current rates? 50. But if we activate the emergency protocols and use the automated facilities." The engineer paused. 200, maybe more. "Do it," Subin ordered. "Strip every civilian resource we can spare. I want 1,000 ships in 3 months." "Admiral, the people will resist. This will mean rationing, hardship." "The people have seen the footage from the New Dawn," Subin said coldly. "They understand what is coming. We either build these ships or we die." On Mars, in the red dust of ancient seabeds, young Sungmin climbed into a fighter craft unlike anything the galaxy had seen. It was small, barely larger than a car, but it moved like liquid silver. The cockpit wrapped around him, neural interfaces connecting directly to his brain. "How does it feel?" the instructor asked over the communication system. "Like it is part of me," Sungmin replied. His thoughts controlled the ship. It rolled, dove, accelerated faster than any human body could naturally survive. But the craft's systems protected him, compensating for forces that would have crushed him in older ships. "This is the Valkyrie," the instructor explained. "We designed it 200 years ago but never built them, never needed to. Now we need them badly." Sungmin flew through training courses at speeds that would terrify most beings. But humans had evolved as hunters on Earth's plains. Their eyes tracked movement better than almost any species. Their hands reacted in milliseconds. Their brains could process spatial relationships instinctively. In a fighter craft designed to enhance these abilities, humans became unstoppable. But not everyone was preparing for battle. In a hospital on Earth, Dr. Inna worked in the emergency ward treating soldiers who had fought on the New Dawn. Physical wounds would heal. The wounds in their minds would take longer. "I can still hear them screaming," one soldier told her. His name was Tae Sung, and he shook constantly despite medication. The colonists, when the aliens breached the cryo bay, they were still asleep. They never knew what happened. Inna held his hand. "You fought. You protected those you could. It was not enough." Tears ran down his face. "It is never enough." She had no answer for him. She had trained as a doctor to save lives, and now her entire species was preparing to take them. The moral weight of it crushed her some nights when she was alone. But she kept working because soldiers like Tae Sung needed someone to care. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, humanity's first psychological warfare campaign began. Human ships appeared simultaneously in 50 different concordate systems. They did not attack. They did not communicate. They just appeared, silent, watching. On a mining world, workers looked up to see a human warship hanging in their sky like a dark moon. It did nothing. It just waited. The workers stopped working. They went home. They locked their doors and wondered if today would be the day the humans decided to act. On a trading hub, merchants saw human ships positioned at every jump point, not blocking them, just observing. Trade stopped. No one wanted to fly near the humans. No one knew what they would do. The economic impact was immediate and devastating. The Concordate's economy depended on trade, on ships moving freely between systems. Within 2 weeks, cargo shipments had dropped by 60%. Stock markets crashed. Businesses closed. Panic spread like fire. In New Crucible, Kyung-soo met with his advisors. The mood was grim. "They are not even attacking," one advisor said. "They are just watching. But it is working. Our economy is collapsing." "What do our intelligence reports say about human military strength?" Kyung-soo demanded. General Kalix, a younger Vorn officer who specialized in strategy, stepped forward. Unlike Thex Ural, he had a thoughtful look. "High Chancellor, I have been reviewing the historical archives. The old texts we dismissed as myths. And they are not myths, Caelix said carefully. I found scientific papers, military analyses, diplomatic records, all hidden in restricted archives. Humans did not vanish. They were asked to leave. Silence fell over the room. Explain, Kyung-Soo said dangerously. Caelix pulled up holographic displays showing ancient documents. 3,000 years ago, humanity reached the stars. They were not conquerors, but they were intense. They competed with each other, constantly pushing boundaries. Their internal conflicts became so destructive that they nearly wiped themselves out. He showed footage from the War of Terra, cities burning, weapons that cracked continents, billions dying. But they stopped themselves, Caelix continued. They made peace among themselves. And then the galactic community at that time asked them a question. Could they guarantee they would never turn that capability outward? Could they? One advisor asked. They said no. They were honest. They said they could not promise to never fight again. So they agreed to leave, to isolate themselves, to give the galaxy time to develop without human influence. Caelix looked directly at Kyung-Soo. They kept that promise for 2,000 years, until we attacked them. Thex Ural attacked a colony ship, not a military target, Kyung-Soo protested weakly. Thex Ural followed your orders, Caelix said. I accessed the secured communications. You authorized the attack. You thought humans were weak. You wanted to put them in their place. Kyung-Soo's scales flushed dark with anger, but he said nothing. Because Caelix was right. How many ships can they field? Another advisor asked. Caelix checked his data. Our best estimate, based on their shipyard capacity and production rates? 2,000 warships within 6 months, each one more advanced than anything we have. That is impossible. They have 2,000 years of technological development we do not understand, Caelix said. They isolated themselves, but they did not stop advancing. They just advanced in secret. On Earth, young Jay worked as a war correspondent. He had volunteered to document what was happening to ensure the truth was recorded for future generations. He interviewed soldiers preparing for deployment. He visited factories working around the clock. He spoke to families saying goodbye to loved ones. Why are you fighting? He asked Sung-min before the pilot deployed. Sung-min thought for a moment. Because 3,000 colonists died. Because they were sleeping. Because they never had a chance to defend themselves. He looked at young Jay with eyes too old for his young face. And because if we do not stop the Concordat now, they will do it again. To us or to someone else. Are you afraid? Terrified, Sung-min admitted. But fear is not a reason to stay home. Young Jay broadcast his reports back to Earth and to anyone in the galaxy who would listen. He showed both sides. The grief, the anger, the determination, but also the doubt. The fear of what humanity was becoming again. Minister Bora watched his reports from her office. She was old enough to understand the terrible irony. Humanity had isolated itself to avoid becoming monsters. Now they were preparing to become monsters again, to protect themselves. Is there no other way? Her aide asked. The Concordat is mobilizing 10,000 ships, Bora said. They believe overwhelming numbers will compensate for inferior technology. They still think they can win through brute force. She turned to face her aide. We tried peace, we tried diplomacy, we tried isolation. They answered with dead children. What happens when we win? The aide asked. If we win, Bora corrected. Nothing is certain in war. She looked out at the orbital shipyards glowing in the night sky. But if we do win, the Crimson Nebula was beautiful in the way dangerous things often are. Red and purple gases swirled through space, lit from within by young stars being born. Radiation and stellar winds made sensor readings unreliable. It was the perfect place for two fleets to meet when neither wanted the other to have any advantage. Admiral Subin stood on the bridge of the UNS Indomitable, now the flagship of humanity's fleet. Around her, 1,000 human warships held position at the nebula's edge. They had come with everything they could build in 3 months. It was not enough to match the Concordat's numbers, but Subin was betting it would be enough to match their capability. Enemy fleet detected, Lieutenant Jamin reported. 10,000 ships. They are forming up on the far side of the nebula. Composition? Subin asked calmly. 8,000 standard warships, 1,000 heavy cruisers, 1,000 support vessels, Jamin paused. Admiral, their flagship is enormous. 3 times the size of anything else in their fleet. Thex Ural is leading them personally, Captain Daehyun said. He had refused to step down after the incident with the patrol ships. He wants to prove himself. Then let us give him that opportunity, Subin said coldly. All ships, battle formation Delta. Fighter wings prepare to launch and activate Helheim Protocol. Across the human fleet, commanders acknowledged the order. In the fighter bays, Sungmin climbed into his Valkyrie along with 200 other pilots. His hands were steady despite the fear churning in his stomach. This would be his first real combat. Remember your training, his squadron leader said over the communication channel. Stay with your wingman. Trust your instincts. And most importantly, come home. Understood, Sungmin replied. On the Concordat flagship Eternal Glory, General Thex Ural surveyed his fleet with satisfaction. 10,000 ships, the largest military force ever assembled in recorded history. The humans had only 1,000. Even with superior technology, numbers would tell. All ships report ready, General, his second-in-command said. This was Vex Corum, a younger officer who had served with Thex Ural for 10 years. He was loyal, but he was also troubled. General, perhaps we should try one more time to negotiate. The humans have not attacked any of our worlds. They have only defended themselves. They exist, Thex Ural growled. That is attack enough. We are the dominant power in this galaxy. We cannot share that position with creatures from legend. He pointed at the display showing the human fleet. We will crush them. We will scatter their ships, and we will ensure that Earth becomes what it should have been from the start. A protected world under our control. As you command, Vex Corum said, though doubt showed in his eyes. The battle began not with a grand charge, but with a careful advance. Both fleets moved into the nebula, sensors barely functioning in the interference. Ships appeared and disappeared in the swirling gases like ghosts. Then the Concordat fleet fired first. Energy beams and missiles filled space with light and destruction. The sheer volume of firepower was staggering. Enough to glass 100 planets. The human shields held. Subin watched the tactical display with cold calculation. They are testing our defenses, trying to gauge our strength.
Do not return fire yet.
Let them waste their ammunition. For 10 minutes, the Concordat fleet poured fire into the human lines. Ships shook under the impact. Shields flickered, but none broke. Not one human vessel fell. Thex Ural stared at his displays in growing disbelief. How are they doing this? Our weapons should be overwhelming them. Their shield technology is far more advanced than our intelligence suggested, Vex Corum reported. General, we are depleting our energy reserves. If we continue like this, we will be vulnerable when we need to maneuver. All ships cease fire, Thex Ural ordered. He studied the battlefield, trying to understand what he was facing. The humans had not fired back. They just floated there waiting. Are they mocking us? He got his answer when Subin gave her next order. Launch all fighters. Execute Helheim Protocol now. From the human ships, clouds of small craft emerged. The Valkyrie fighters moved with impossible grace, darting between the nebula's energy currents. Behind them came something else. Thousands of autonomous drones, each one guided by adaptive artificial intelligence. Sungmin felt his fighter respond to his thoughts as he dove into the battle. His squadron scattered through the Concordat formation like bullets through paper. The enemy ships were big and powerful, but they were slow. Their targeting systems could not track the human fighters. He locked onto a cruiser's weapon ports and fired. Precise laser bursts disabled the turrets without destroying the ship. Then he was past, moving to the next target. Around him, his squadron did the same. They were not trying to kill. They were trying to disable. But the drones had a different mission. The Helheim drones spread through the Concordat fleet like a virus. Each one carried sophisticated AI that could learn and adapt in real time. They studied enemy ship designs, found weaknesses, and exploited them. They targeted engine housings, shield generators, life support systems. They were surgical and merciless. Within 30 minutes, 2,000 Concordat ships were disabled. Dead in space, crews alive but helpless. Thex Ural watched his fleet fall apart around him. This is impossible. We have 10,000 ships. General, we need to withdraw, Vex Corum urged. We are losing control. Never. Thexural roared. All ships converge on the human flagship. If we destroy their admiral, they will break. 5,000 concordate ships, all that remained mobile, turned toward the Indomitable, their weapons charged for a massive coordinated strike. If they could land enough hits at once, even human shields would fail. Captain Daehyun saw what was coming. Admiral, they are committing everything to a single strike. I see it, Subin said. Helm all power to forward shields. All ships rallied to the flagship. Form defensive wall. The human fleet moved as one, creating a barrier of overlapping shields around the Indomitable. The concordate strike came like a hammer of light, energy beams from 5,000 ships converging on a single point. The impact was catastrophic. 3 human ships at the outer edge exploded instantly. 5 more were crippled. The Indomitable shook so hard that crew members were thrown from their stations. Lights flickered. Systems failed, but the shields held. Damage report, Taehyun shouted. Shields at 40%. Hull breaches on decks 9 and 12. Casualties reported. Jaemin's voice was strained. But we are still here. Subin stood, blood running from a cut on her forehead. They have committed everything to that strike. They have nothing left. She wiped the blood away. All ships return fire, but remember the rules of engagement. Disable, do not destroy. We want survivors. The human counterattack was precise and overwhelming. While the concordate ships were still recharging from their massive strike, human weapons found their marks. Engine drives went dark. Weapon systems failed. Shield generators exploded. In his fighter, Sungmin watched concordate ships go dark by the hundreds. He felt no joy in it. These were people just like him. People who had families waiting for them. But they had fired first. They had killed colonists in their sleep. This was justice, even if it felt hollow. On the eternal glory, alarms screamed. Systems failed one after another. Thexural stood at his command station, refusing to sit even as his ship died around him. General, we must evacuate. Vexcorum insisted. The ship is lost. I will not run from humans, Thexural said. I will not give them that satisfaction. Then you will die for nothing. Vexcorum grabbed the general's arm. Please. The crew needs you to give the order to abandon ship. For a moment, Thexural's eyes showed something other than pride. Perhaps it was regret. Perhaps it was understanding that he had led them all to this disaster. But then the moment passed. You evacuate the crew, he said quietly. I stay here. General, that is an order, Vexcorum. Get them out. All of them. The eternal glory was not destroyed. The Indomitable approached it carefully, and Captain Daehyun opened a communication channel. He could see Thexural standing alone on the bridge, his command staff evacuated. General Thexural, Daehyun said, your fleet is defeated. Surrender and you will be treated with honor. I know what honor means to me, Thexural replied. I do not need humans to teach it. He looked at Daehyun through the view screen. Tell me something. Why did you not destroy us? You had the power. We would have destroyed you. Because we remember what it is like to almost destroy ourselves, Daehyun said. Because we know that every soldier out there has someone waiting for them at home. Because we are tired of death. Thexural's scales shifted color, showing emotions humans could not interpret. Your species is strange, dangerous and merciful at the same time. Perhaps that is why the old ones feared you. Perhaps, Daehyun agreed. Will you surrender? I will not. Thexural reached for a control panel. But I will not take you with me either. My crew is evacuated. This ship dies with me alone. General, do not, but Thexural had already triggered the self-destruct. The eternal glory exploded in a ball of silent light. Across the battlefield, the fighting stopped. 7,000 concordate ships floated dead in space. 3,000 had been destroyed. 50 human ships were lost. The human fleet had won decisively. But as Dr. Inna's medical ships moved through the debris field, retrieving survivors from both sides. Ambassador Taewon walked through the halls of New Crucible Station once more. But this time, the atmosphere was different. No one stared at him with curiosity or hostility. Instead, they moved aside, giving him respectful space. Some even bowed their heads as he passed. The war had lasted only 6 months. 6 months of humanity demonstrating that the old legends were not exaggerations. 6 months of the Concordate learning what it meant to face a species that had perfected warfare, and then chosen to stop. The council chamber was full when Taiwan entered. Every species in the galaxy had sent representatives. They wanted to witness history. They wanted to see what demands the victorious humans would make. Kyung-soo sat on his throne, but he looked smaller now, older. His scales had dulled, and his eyes showed defeat. Beside him sat Vex Coram, promoted to general after Thex Ural's death. The young officer watched the humans with a mix of respect and wariness. "Ambassador Taewon," Kyung-soo said formally, "you return to this chamber as the representative of the victorious power. What are humanity's terms?" Taewon stood alone in the center of the chamber, just as he had months before, but now he spoke with the weight of proven strength behind his words. "High Chancellor, honored council, members of the galactic community, humanity's terms are simple." He paused, letting the silence build. "We want what we asked for in the beginning, to be recognized as equals, to trade freely, to share knowledge, to build friendships." Confused murmurs rippled through the chamber. "That is all?" one representative asked. "No territory? No tribute? No demands for reparations beyond those already agreed upon for the victims' families?" "That is all," Taewon confirmed. "We did not return to the stars to conquer. We returned to rejoin the community we left so long ago. The war was not our choice. We fought only to prove we would not be treated as lesser beings." Kyung-soo leaned forward. "You could demand anything. We could not stop you. Why ask for so little?" "Because we remember what happens when the strong dominate the weak," Taewon said quietly. "We remember the War of Terra when we nearly destroyed ourselves. We learned that lesson in Blood and Fire. We will not become the thing we fought against." He pulled up holographic displays showing destroyed Concordat ships, floating debris fields, disabled stations. "We have proven we can destroy. Now we want to prove we can build. Humanity offers to share defensive technology with all species. Not as payment, not as manipulation, but as partnership." "Why would you do this?" Vex Coram asked, speaking for the first time. "We attacked you. We killed your people." "Yes," Taewon agreed. "And you paid for that mistake. But holding on to anger forever does not bring back the dead. It only creates more dead." He looked around the chamber. "We are tired. We are tired of fighting. We are tired of being feared. We want something different. We want to be part of something larger than war." The vote was unanimous. Humanity would take a seat on the Galactic Council. Earth would no longer be a restricted zone, though it would remain protected. Trade agreements were signed. Technology exchange programs were established. And most importantly, all species agreed to create the Institute of Interspecies Understanding, dedicated to preventing future conflicts. Dr. Ha-Ren was chosen to lead the institute. She stood in the new building on New Crucible, surrounded by artifacts from 100 worlds. Human ruins, alien monuments, evidence of civilizations that rose and fell. "We must remember," she told her diverse staff on their first day. "Remember the mistakes. Remember the costs. Remember what we can do to each other when we forget we are all just people trying to survive." Among her staff was Vex Coram. He had resigned from the military and asked to study at the institute. "I need to understand," he told Ha-Ren. "I need to know why I followed orders without questioning. Why I believed humans were threats when we were the ones attacking. That understanding is the beginning of wisdom," Ha-Ren said gently. On Mars, Sungmin returned from the war a different person. He was 20 years old but felt 40. He had destroyed hundreds of ships, disabled thousands of weapons. He had saved lives and ended lives. The weight of it crushed him some nights, but Captain Dae-hyun, who had retired to teach at the military academy, helped him find purpose. "You think you are broken," Dae-hyun told him, "but you are not. You are learning the cost of what we can do. That knowledge makes you more careful, more thoughtful. That makes you a better person." "I do not feel better," Sungmin admitted. "I feel guilty." "Good," Dae-hyun said. "The day you stop feeling guilty for taking lives, even in war, is the day you become dangerous. Hold on to that guilt. Let it guide you to prevent future wars." Sungmin eventually became an instructor, teaching new pilots not just how to fight, but when not to fight. His students learned that the greatest victories were the battles they prevented. Dr. Ina's hospital became the first truly interspecies medical facility in the galaxy. She treated patients from dozens of species, learning their biology, sharing human medical knowledge. One of her most frequent visitors was a Vorn soldier she had treated after the Battle of Crimson Nebula. "Why do you keep coming back?" she asked him one day. "Because you saved my life when you had no reason to," he said. Because I need to understand how a species that can wage war so effectively can also be so gentle. We are not gentle, Ina corrected. We are just trying to be better than our worst impulses. Some days we succeed, some days we do not. Minister Bora did not live to see the 10th anniversary of the war's end. She died peacefully in her sleep, content that she had steered humanity through its greatest crisis since the plague. Her last words, recorded in her personal journal, were simple. We did not become monsters. We remembered who we wanted to be. Admiral Subin remained in command of Earth's defense forces, but her role changed. Instead of preparing for war, she now coordinated with other species to respond to threats to the entire galaxy. Pirates, rogue AI, natural disasters. The human fleet became protectors, not conquerors, but she also oversaw the vault. Deep in a hidden location, guarded by both human and council security, the most dangerous weapons humanity had created were locked away. Subin held one of 2 keys needed to open it. A council representative held the other. Will we ever need to use these again? The council representative asked her once. I hope not, Subin said. But we keep them as a reminder of what we can do, of what we choose not to do. Young Jay's war chronicles were published in every language in the galaxy. They became required reading in schools across thousands of worlds. He had documented everything. The battles, the deaths, the heroism, the mistakes. He had not hidden humanity's brutality or glorified their mercy. He had simply told the truth. In the introduction, he wrote, "This is not a story about humans being better than other species. It is a story about humans being terrifyingly good at one thing, war, and choosing to be good at something else instead. It is a story about species that can destroy each other, choosing to understand each other. It is not a happy story. War stories never are, but it is a hopeful one." On the 10th anniversary of the war's end, a memorial was unveiled on New Crucible. It was a simple structure, a wall of black stone carved with names. Every human who died in the war was listed. Every concordate soldier, every civilian caught in the crossfire. 30,000 names in total. Representatives from every species in the galaxy gathered for the ceremony. Kyungsoo, old and frail now, stood beside Taiwan. The former enemies had become unlikely friends in the years after the war. I think about that day often, Kyungsoo said quietly. When I ordered the attack on your colony ship, I thought I was protecting my people. I was only protecting my pride. We all make mistakes, Taiwan said. The question is what we do after. I stepped down from power. I spent years trying to make amends. But it does not bring back the dead. No, Taiwan agreed. But it makes the living safer. That is something. They stood together in silence, reading names. Human names. Vorn names. Sivari names. All equal in death. All mourned equally. Young Jay, now gray-haired and bent with age, gave the memorial address. His voice was quiet but clear. 10 years ago, the galaxy woke up to an impossible truth. Humans were real. The legends had returned. And we came not as the saviors some hoped for, nor as the conquerors some feared. We came as we always were, flawed beings trying to do better. He gestured to the memorial wall. These names represent the cost of forgetting that lesson. The cost of pride. The cost of fear. The cost of assuming that strength gives you the right to dominate. But they also represent something else. They represent the price we paid to remember who we are. Not gods, not monsters. Just people. People capable of terrible things and beautiful things. People who can wage war with frightening efficiency and choose peace with equal determination. The galaxy feared our return. Perhaps they still fear us. But now they also know that we can be trusted. Not because we are saints, but because we understand the cost of violence. Because we remember what happens when the strong forget mercy. Because we choose every day to be better than our worst capabilities. We are human. We are flawed. We make mistakes. We hurt each other and ourselves. But we are trying. And perhaps that is the most important thing any species can do. Keep trying. Keep learning. Keep choosing to build instead of destroy.